Stop being overly dramatic, Kathleen. You were aware this was inevitable. My husband Tom's words pierced the silence in our living room in Palm Springs, his smirk fixated on the photo album I'd meticulously compiled over weeks. As he carelessly flipped through the pages, bending the corners and disregarding their significance, I remained silent. Each photo documented a milestone in our shared life: our wedding day, the purchase of our first home, festive holidays, and family gatherings. Unbeknownst to Tom, these memories, each significant in its own right, harbored something precious beyond mere sentiment. "Well, since we're being truthful here," he added, snapping the album shut dismissively, "I've been involved with Jessica from work for the past 8 months. She's young, ambitious, everything you used to be." He nodded towards his suitcase, already waiting by the door. "I'm leaving tonight. We'll stay at the Grand Vista Hotel until we get our place." Jessica, his 28-year-old intern, I'd suspected his infidelity ever since noticing his supposed late-night meetings and the unfamiliar perfume clinging to his clothes, yet I remained silent, biding my time. "Quite the confession," I replied, my voice steady despite the trembling of my hands, "and right on our anniversary, no less." "Oh, come on, don't tell me you really anticipated we'd celebrate it," he laughed, the sound resonating off the high-ceilinged living room walls. "The album, the dinner at Lorenzo's, you're planning, it's all desperate, Kathleen." "You've become desperate." Rising from the couch, I smoothed my emerald green dress, the one he'd always claimed aged me, and approached him. I took hold of the photo album, saying, "You're correct about one thing, Tom, this night isn't unfolding as planned." His eyebrows rose inquisitively as I retrieved it from his hands. "What are you doing?" he questioned. "Taking back what's mine," I answered, a small smile forming, "since you won't be needing these memories anymore." What Tom couldn't grasp was the truth nestled between those carefully arranged photos, a truth key to my future and the cessation of his comfortable life. My awareness of Tom's indiscretion extended back months, but that wasn't what had kept me awake at night. Just a week prior, I'd received life-altering news. My hand still trembled a bit as I held the album, recollecting how I checked the numbers on the lottery ticket, 6 transformative numbers converting me from an aging housewife into a multi-millionaire. That moment was lucid, sitting at my kitchen table at 3 a.m., quadruple checking under a dim light, afraid to breathe or even dare to believe. My first call wasn't to Tom, but to Alana Wilson, Palm Springs' most esteemed financial advisor. Together, we spent 3 days thoroughly planning and solidifying my future, ensuring everything was solely under my name and protected by a team of lawyers specializing in lottery beneficiaries. The trust was ironclad, the account secure, and my future mapped with precision. I'd already started browsing for Malibu properties, envisioning a new life away from the desert's scorching heat and oppressive memories. "Elective irony, isn't it, Tom?" I murmured, tracing the spine of the album with my fingers. "I always imagined discovering your affair and watching you leave would be more painful, but strangely, it's not." I considered all the signs I downplayed over the past 8 months, those extended nights, elusive calls, and the mysterious weekend conferences void of documentation. At the threshold, his hand lingered on the suitcase handle. "Are you having some dramatic emotional epiphany?" His tone was derisive, but uncertainty glimmered in his eyes. "Indeed, I've had quite a few revelations lately," I remarked as I sat down at our antique desk. "Last year, Tom had insisted we purchase that desk, plunging us further into debt. It's remarkable how clarity often arrives unexpectedly." I reminisced about the moment I decided to compile this album, meticulously selecting photos to hide my secret within its pages. Tom's phone buzzed and he glanced at it, smirking. "That's Jessica. She's waiting downstairs," he said, adjusting the blue silk tie I'd given him for Christmas. "I'll have my lawyer contact you about the house and assets." "Let's keep this civil, Kathleen. It's best for everyone if we handle this like adults." I nodded, watching him fidget with his watch, probably calculating the divorce settlement and how he'd continue his lifestyle with Jessica. Little did he know that in exactly 3 minutes, his entire scheme would unravel. Nestled securely between these pages was proof of my fortune, ready to be revealed. "Before you leave," I said, opening the photo album once more, "there's something you need to see." I carefully extracted a document from between the pages of our Hawaiian vacation photos, the last trip we had taken together, although Tom had spent most of it texting Jessica, pretending to answer work emails. The paper looked crisp and official. I held it delicately, watching Tom's impatience turn into curiosity. "What's that, another marriage counseling brochure?" He laughed dryly. "I think we're past that point, don't you?" Actually, I replied, standing up straight, channeling the newfound confidence from last week's discovery, it's something much more interesting. You see, while you were busy planning a new life with Jessica, I was busy too. I unfolded the document slowly, deliberately, the California State Lottery Commission letterhead glistening under our living room lights. Tom's eyes narrowed as he tried to read it from a distance. What are you playing at, Kathleen? His voice no longer carried its mocking edge. 7 days ago I won the lottery, Tom. $98 million to be precise. After taxes, it comes to a little over $60 million. I watched the color drain from his face. The funny thing is, according to California law, lottery winnings obtained before divorce proceedings begin are separate property. His suitcase hit the floor with a thud. You're lying, he whispered, but his eyes were glued to the official seal, the verification codes, the amount spelled out in bold black letters. I'm not. I've already met with financial advisors, lawyers, and investment specialists. Everything's been processed and secured. The money's mine, Tom. All of it. He took a step toward me, then another, his face twisted with shock and desperation. Kathleen, honey, let's talk about this. You know I still care for you. Maybe I've been a little hasty. A little hasty? I interrupted, my voice steady. Like when you booked that romantic weekend in Santa Barbara with Jessica, or when you used our joint account to buy her that diamond bracelet. His phone buzzed again persistently. Jessica was still waiting downstairs, probably wondering what was taking so long. The irony was not lost on me. She was about to get a very different version of Tom than she had expected. You can't do this to me, he said, his voice cracking. We're married. I have rights. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Actually, Tom, I can and I am. Jessica's waiting for you. You shouldn't keep her waiting. After all, you two have an exciting new life to begin. Tom spent the next hour trying to salvage what he could from his carefully laid plans. His transformation was almost fascinating to watch, how his previous disdain melted into desperate charm, how his smirk softened into what he probably thought was an endearing smile. I'd seen this performance before, but never with such high stakes. We can work this out, he said, pacing our living room. Think about it, Kathleen. 25 years of marriage, that means something. As he motioned around our home, Tom highlighted the life we built together. Despite mortgaging it twice secretly to cover his gambling debts, he insisted, "You're my wife," after acknowledging past mistakes with Jessica. I sat quietly, clutching the photo album, and retorted how he conveniently forgot our marriage an hour ago when he called me pathetic. His phone buzzed frequently, each time making him reject the calls nervously. Poor Jessica was still downstairs, likely puzzled about why her new life hadn't commenced. I'll end it with her now, Tom insisted, reaching for his phone. I'll call her up and let you see it's over. Would that prove my seriousness? I shook my head, almost feeling sorry for him. You really don't understand. This isn't about Jessica. It's about 25 years of your manipulation and lack of respect. Winning the lottery just made everything clear. His demeanor shifted from desperate charm to something more menacing. After everything I've done for you, you think you can simply walk away? He accused, moving closer. Before me, you were just a small town girl with dreams and no path. Unfazed, I sat firm. And now I'm a small town girl with $60 million and a skilled lawyer. Would you like his number? You'll hear from him soon anyway. I'll challenge you for every cent, he growled. You think you can enjoy your wealth while I drag you through endless court trials? Calmly, I pulled out another document from the album. Our lawyers have already documented everything: your affair, gambling, the funds stolen from our accounts, even the joint credit card gifts for Jessica. Imagine how a judge would view that. His face paled, and another buzz from his phone betrayed his unease. The message preview was readable even from my seat, filled with urgency about missing a crucial meeting. Let me guess. I surmised Jessica's father was the planned investor for your new business venture, the one funded by embezzled money. Tom collapsed onto the extravagant Italian leather sofa, speechless. How did you find out? His voice faltered. I extracted yet another document with a calm smile. People talk when they think you're just a harmless housewife, I explained, referencing Amanda from his accounting team. For months she worried about suspicious transactions, but he ignored her warnings. Airing her documentation relieved her. You've been investigating me? He snarled, livid. You had no right. Actually, as your wife and a company shareholder, I had every right, I countered. The board of directors agreed when my lawyers presented the evidence last week. There's a meeting tomorrow to discuss your role, though I expect it will be brief, I added, pausing for impact. Another buzz, this time hands trembling, he answered. Jessica, I can't come. Something's up. He winced, holding the phone away from the angry outburst. He eventually ended the call, looking defeated. You've destroyed everything, he whispered. No, Tom, I corrected. You did that yourself. I've simply stopped participating. As I stood gazing out the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the expanse of you know, Tom, the amusing part is that if you had been up front and simply asked for a divorce in a civilized manner, I might have shared a portion of the lottery winnings with you. Not half, but certainly enough. But now you're left with nothing. Well, not entirely nothing. You do get to bear the consequences of your actions. The board is set to file charges for your embezzlement, and they're especially intrigued by those offshore accounts you believed were invisible. Tom's complexion alternated between red and pale as he lunged for the photo album, probably in a bid to find and destroy more incriminating documents. However, I had already secured everything critical, leaving behind only photographs, reminders of a life that once was. Manipulative, he muttered, cutting himself short as the irony dawned upon him. I learned from the best, I responded calmly. But I should really thank Jessica, too. If she hadn't been so eager to flaunt your scheming during her yoga class, I might not have discovered everything so swiftly. Her friend Olivia became quite talkative after a few glasses of wine. The realization of his unraveling plans hit him. The comfortable life he shared with me and the future he envisioned with Jessica were slipping away. The police will arrive shortly, I announced, glancing at my watch. Amanda has already submitted the official report this afternoon. You might want to call a lawyer, specifically a criminal defense attorney. A sharp knock at the door startled Tom, who darted his eyes around the room like a trapped animal searching for an escape. From our 15th floor penthouse there was none. That'll be Detective Harrison, I said, heading to open the door. He's got quite an interest in your offshore dealings. Wait, Tom pleaded, grabbing my arm painfully. We can work something out. I'll sign whatever you want, divorce papers, an affair confession, just don't proceed with this. I looked from his hand to his face, quietly demanding, remove your hand, Tom, now. The increasingly persistent knock resumed. Realizing he had no choice, Tom released me. You don't understand. There are other influential people involved in this, he muttered desperately. Oh, I'm well aware of them, I replied, adjusting my sleeve. Like Michael Anderson, who helped conceal your funds through shell companies. 3 days ago, he turned on you after the FBI presented evidence of your plan to incriminate him. Your text messages were surprisingly enlightening. Using 1234 as a phone password wasn't exactly secure. The knocks intensified. Mr. Amos Wilson, police. Open the door. Tom made one last plea. Think about the impact on your reputation. Everyone will see you as the wife who sent her husband to prison. I cut him off. You mean the wife who exposed millions in corporate fraud, safeguarded innocent investors from a scammer, and stood for justice? Yes, I'm perfectly fine with that image. I opened the door to see Detective Harrison accompanied by 2 uniformed officers. Detective, he's all yours. His phone might be of particular interest, considering he was just about to erase some vital messages. Tom's face twisted with anger. You orchestrated this from the photo album to our anniversary dinner. It was all a trap. I looked on as they handcuffed him, smiling slightly. The lottery win was sheer fortune, but everything else? Yes, meticulously planned. Consider it the payoff of 25 years of investment. Just as they were about to lead him out, he glanced back and asked, What about Jessica? Are you intending to destroy her life too? Jessica made her own choices, I responded, but don't worry. She's already seen your messages with Michael Anderson. The ones where you called her a useful idiot who'd take the blame if things went south. She's likely occupied right now, probably consulting her own attorney. I observed silently as he was escorted out, his shoulders heavy with defeat. Photo album remained on the coffee table, filled with memories of a life built on deceit. But I no longer needed those memories. I had something better, a future of my own making. 1 year later, I found myself in my new Malibu beach house, watching as the sunset transformed the Pacific into shades of orange and gold. The soothing sounds of waves had replaced the desert winds of Palm Springs, and the salty air had cleansed the remnants of my past life. The whirlwind media frenzy following Tom's arrest was intense but short-lived. Corporate fraud doesn't hold the public's interest for long, especially when bigger scandals arise. Tom accepted a plea bargain, agreeing to testify against his co-conspirators, resulting in a reduced sentence of 8 years instead of 20. Following the scandal, Jessica escaped to Arizona, her aspirations of being the wife of a wealthy executive in ruins. I glanced at the morning paper, which featured another article about the case, this time commending the whistleblowers who had exposed the fraud. My name appeared alongside Amanda from accounting as pivotal figures in the unraveling of the scheme. Yet, that wasn't the story that captured my attention. Instead, I was drawn to the business section, which highlighted my new charitable foundation. Winning the lottery granted me freedom, but founding the charity gave me purpose. We dedicated ourselves to assisting women in escaping financial abuse, offering resources and support to those trapped in similar situations to what I endure. Every triumphant story felt like a personal victory. My phone buzzed with a message from Alana Wilson, my financial advisor, informing me that the foundation's latest investment had been highly successful, resulting in more funds to aid more women. I smiled, reflecting on how far I had come since the night with the photo album. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about ruining another's life. It's about building a better one for yourself. Just last week, I received a surprising letter from Tom. For days, the prison-stamped envelope lay unopened on my desk until my curiosity won out. Inside were pages filled with apologies, explanations, and requests for forgiveness. He explained that he'd found God in prison and sought to make amends, even suggesting that we could collaborate through my foundation after his release. I couldn't help but chuckle at his predictability. Even behind bars, he was scheming for opportunities to gain favor financially. I shredded the letter without responding. That evening, at a foundation charity gala, I recounted this story to James, a widowed investor and major donor to our cause. He laughed genuinely, his eyes crinkling with amusement, remarking how some people never change, but others do. He gestured to the room filled with women who had escaped similar situations, many thriving and running their businesses. Speaking of transformations, I replied, remember the photo album that set all of this in motion? I finally found it a good use. I donated it to a museum's exhibit on financial fraud and domestic abuse. The album, displayed in a glass case with its pages showing the hidden compartments where evidence was stored. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Sometimes the strongest chains are the ones we think we can't break." James raised his glass to breaking chains and building bridges, I added, thinking of the women we'd helped and those still to come.